Woo.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. That's 40 kilograms. I thought I'd just show that to you. That was me a little while back doing a 40 kilogram single arm snatch for a few reps. So it's kind of fun to play with load, kind of fun to push yourself and see if you can execute some movements. But today, I'm here to go over the snatch, go over the details to help you. And I'm Corey McCoy with Plaza Fitness Performance. And today we're going to put together the elements, the pieces of the puzzle for the snatch. Now the snatch, the kettlebell snatch is the king of kettlebell skills. So you don't just all of a sudden break out the snatch. This is going to take potentially some time, and you want to put everything together in a way that makes sense so that it's safe and effective for you. So let's kind of go through some of the pieces, the foundational pieces that are really, really important before you start to snatch with a kettlebell. Those foundational elements are things that we preach every day. Every day. You want to make sure that you have reflexive core stability. You want to make sure you have your breath. You want to make sure you're doing all it takes to be stable within the core, and that you have your hip hinge, that you're able to move adequately well. Those are all things that are critically important. You just don't want to walk into an environment like this and start breaking out some higher level skills that you're not prepared for, because that is not smart. So make sure you have some of those things taken care of, preferably all of them. You've done some reflexive core stability, it's in your practice. You are hip hinging, you're doing some neural resets, it's consistent. And then you move into making sure that you have adequate strength with your deadlift and the 5 human movements, as well as start getting into a swing. So once you start getting into your swing, that is the foundation, it's the entry really into the kettlebell skill world. And you want to make sure that you have a really solid single arm swing before you start to snatch. So that single arm swing, if you've seen any of our videos, specifically some of the swing videos, you're going to want to make sure that you hard style that swing. And by hard styling, it really means that you treat a 10 kilogram just as if it were a 40 kilogram. It doesn't matter what the weight is, it's hard style. So you've got your power breath, you've got tension at the top throughout the movement. So make sure you've not necessarily mastered, but you're practicing those skills and you're prepared to enter really the practice for snatching. So assuming you've got your 2-hand, 2-arm swing solid, your hip hinging, your spine's in neutral, you're making that explosive, you're venturing into single arm swinging where you've got all the mechanics at play, right? The single arm swing with that hard styles explosive, getting the opposite arm to work for you so that it's all easier, not harder. So skills and strength training are very similar to running. When I go for a run, I'm not trying to make it artificially hard necessarily. I am trying to make it as easy as I can at the pace that I'm setting the objective for. So if I'm doing a 5-mile run, I want to get back feeling as well as I can. I'm not trying to make it artificially challenging, unless maybe I'm doing some interval work where I want to set a pace. Again, I'm trying to make that pace as comfortable, as easy as possible. Same thing with strength training. We're trying to make strength training as easy and as safe as possible. We're not trying to make it ridiculously hard and not doable. So you want to make sure that your swing is solid. You want to make sure you've got the explosiveness, the hard style. Great way to teach hard styles with tension and hard style planking. You've got the hip hinge. Opposite arm is working for you so that it's kinesthetically smooth, right? Without that opposite arm, it's going to be a lot harder. With that opposite arm, it's just like a vertical jump, right? Swinging is just like that vertical jump. So you're getting into that backside chain. All really important. And you're going to practice that for a period of time. Again, really depends upon your fitness level and your coach and everything it has to do with you personally. But once you start playing with the snatch, there are some ways and some tools, tips and tricks that will help make the snatch much more efficient for you. It'll make it easier, make it better ultimately. So you're gonna wanna start with a bell that's, comfortable for you. I've got a bunch of different bells out here. That initial video of the 40 kilogram, obviously that's a really heavy bell for me. I wouldn't be doing many reps with it. And so for me, my snatch bell is a 24. That's what I would use if I were doing and preparing for and executing a snatch test, which is 100 repetitions in 5 minutes. That is basically the test that within our program would get you into a black band. So it does take time to prepare for that, both from a hand standpoint, mechanic standpoint, strength and conditioning standpoint. That is definitely a challenge. The pro snatch would be the 32. I did the Strong First challenge with, I think it was in 2014 or something like that, with the 32, ended up taking third. I can't remember exactly how many repetitions I did, 100 or something, whatever, but that's a heavier load for me, so that's definitely a little more challenging. But so for today, I'll probably just play with like the 16, keep it kind of comfortable because I'm going to be talking. I don't want to be completely out of breath with you guys. So let's kind of dig into this a little bit. Let's grab a bell. We're picking up bells with neutral spine, right? Always protecting ourselves, making sure we're stable, not doing anything that's foolish like rounding our spine. We know all of that from Dr. Stuart McGill and all the spine research that he does. So we're smart about how we pick up load and move them around. So when you're going to start snatching, there are a few different ways to attack this. Generally speaking, I use things that work for me. So you need to find those tools, tips, and tricks that work for you and your body. But the way that I teach this and the way that I execute it myself is that I'm really focused on all of the elements of that single arm hard style swing. That's gonna, in essence, be the foundation, which is going to be the motor, the gluteals are thrusting that bell up. I'm gonna do a super quick lightning strike high pull, which is going to whip that bell. It's gonna simply change the trajectory of the bottom of the bell, and it's gonna allow it to kind of whip, and I'm gonna punch it at the top, and I'm standing tall at the top. I'm gonna quick wrist flip from the top and bring it down right to my groin, which is going to enable me to get back into my hips and perform the movement over and over and over and over again. So just giving you a little quick, shot of what the end result will look like. Let me go through this. So I'll give you a few different angles. I'll face you initially. Again, a 16 is pretty comfortable for me. My first repetition is going to be a single arm swing, which is what we would recommend initially. Unless you're being timed in a snatch test, then you probably wouldn't want to waste that rep. But in practice, first repetition is a swing. Second repetition, then you're going into that snatch. So let's take a look at a few reps. I might tell you what, I'll do 5 on my right, I'll swing switch, I'll do 5 on my left. Then what I'll do is I will put the bell down, I'll turn to the side, I'll do 5 more on right, 5 more on left. I'll turn to the other side, I'll do 5 more on my right, 5 on my left. And again, that's why I'm doing a 16. I want to feel like I'm getting an incredible workout because I got to talk to you guys, but here we go. Whew. So that is kind of why we use the term getting twice the results in half the time, because there's a strength and conditioning element to that ballistic kettlebell skill. And that's what will really help us with performance. It's power. It's getting into the backside chain. It's using every muscle that we have. And that will help me run. It will help me shape and tone. It'll help me manage my weight. It'll help me do anything in life that I want to do. So cool. So I'm just taking a little extra time here and catching my breath. But there you can see 5 reps, actually 10 reps facing you, 10 reps one side, 10 reps the other. And you hopefully get a good idea now of what the end result looks like. So now let's back it up and let's go through some of the finer details. Again, if you haven't seen the single arm swing, or this is the first time you've ever kind of been introduced to snatching, you'd want to go back and make sure that your single arm swing is rock solid. It is simply the foundation. So if I have a client who's never snatched before and they want to snatch, the first thing I look for is, do they have a solid swing? Do they have a solid single arm swing? I mean, those are foundational elements. So you've got to make sure that that single arm swing and the 2 arm swing are solid. You've got to make sure their hips are there. You've got to make sure that there's power with the power breathing and the hard style and the tension. It's all got to be there. Same thing with that single arm swing. The single arm swing has got to be there. It's got to be explosive and it's got to be sharp. It's just like if I'm going to vertical jump, this is not a vertical jump. This is. So every rep is as intense as you can make it when you swing or when you snatch. So it's not, we're not in competition here with kettlebells. We're doing a hard style. So the hard style means that we take every rep and make it high quality. So it doesn't matter whether I'm using a 16 or a 32, it does not matter. I'm treating them all with the same level of intensity. All right, so assuming that you've got your swing, you've got your single arm swing, and you've also got that kinesthetic flow with the off arm, and on the single arm swing, that off arm is gonna flow with it. And also make sure that when you swing, that the bell goes right to the groin. So you might end up seeing individuals come really low, and that's a super squatty swing. It may not be dangerous per se, but getting into your quadriceps, these are not performance muscles per se. The backside chain, the gluteals with that sprinting motion or the jumping, that's all backside chain stuff, and the swing and the snatch do a great job of getting into those as long as you get into your hips. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about or try to emphasize, once you get beyond and you've proven the hard style single arm swing, is a super quick lightning strike. Bang, bang. Just enough to change the trajectory of that bottom of the bell. It's not a super long high pull. It's not here and wonk. It's not wonk. It's not a super big high pull. It's a lightning strike. Boom. And you can't even see it. If I do a snatch, you really can't even see that high pull. Can't even see it. So if I'm practicing that, if I'm breaking down the elements, I would just single arm swing to the point of weightlessness and then a super quick lightning strike. So let's kind of go through that. So I might swing it, just kind of get the feel for when it's weightless. And then once it is, in and out. Lightning strike. Lightning strike, lightning strike, lightning strike. And I'm just pulling that bell back and forth. Boom, 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 boom. That's all I'm doing. Because once I get that, then I can give it that super quick lightning strike. The bell starts to whip around with that pull, and then I punch it. And the bell is rising because of the energy that I've given it within the hips. So that bell is continuing to go up. I super quick high pull, pull it, it whips the back end around, and I punch it, and it continues to rise because this is a vertical element. We want the snatch to go vertical. So let me do a couple little super quick lightning strike pulls, and then I'll move those into the pull punch. Let's see, let me go from, go a couple straight and a couple to the side. Here's your lightning strike. Do a couple of those. And now, lightning strike and punch. Lightning strike and punch. Turn to the side. Super quick. Pull. Pull punch. Pull punch. So that is that element with the pull punch. I want to make sure you guys can all see that when I get to the top so that you can take the next element and combine it to get back to your groins, back to the motors that really drive the swing and ultimately the snatch. So in summary here so far, we've got super stable reflexive core stability. We can get into our hips. We've got our power breathing. We've got the elements of the swing. We've got our opposite hand working for us to make it easier. And once you give me that hard style swing, you're going to transition to that super quick lightning strike, high pull, super quick. And you want to get that full extension of your swing before you high pull it. So you're getting full maximum power from your hips. That bell's going up, then you can high pull it. So that's what happens during that snatch. So you high pull it, then you're gonna punch it, and then you're at the top. So once you're at the top, let's talk about the top, because the top is pretty important. If I'm at the top of that movement, so you can see here, I could potentially let that bell just drop. And I don't know about you, but I can feel that. And you can probably see that when I drop this bell, and it's only 16 kilograms, if I drop it, it's a big pull on my body, and that doesn't feel so hot. So in order to control that bell, you really want a quick wrist flip so you can control it with the core right to your groin. The other thing that's happened maybe in the past with other instructors in terms of how they may teach this, and I'm a little bit different, but I believe in what works for me and what works for the clients that I work with, and also understanding the body and how it's designed. So I've heard of just bringing that bell straight down. Well, I don't like bringing the bell straight down because that means that there has to be a sharper angle when you go back to your hips. I like using the natural flow and circular path that your hips are really designed for. So your hips don't necessarily respond that well to straight line angles. They respond really well to circular movement, as in the hip hinge. So if we can keep those things moving in that circular pattern, it works really well for the body. So when I swing, I'm going up in that circular direction because my arms are basically extended. I'm not doing anything funky, and I'm extending, getting all the power from my hips. That's a circular, think of it as like a point of rotation at your hips, and then a string to my hand. That's rotation. That's a circular position. I high pull, I punch, I'm at the top. I'm basically going back the exact same pattern or flow or direction that I came up with. It kind of makes sense. So you just grease that groove on that pattern. You don't get out of it. You don't come straight down because then you got the sharp angle and it messes with the flow, especially if you're trying to do 100 snatches in 5 minutes. So once you're at the top, you want to control it with a super quick wrist flip. And if you look at that, if you can look at my wrist when I get there to the top, so here it is. I'm in this standing tall position at the top of the snatch. Super quick wrist flip so I can control it with my core in that circular path right to my groin. And it's very smooth, very fluid, and very effective when you do that. So you've got all your reflexive core stability. You've got your neutral spine. You've got your power breath, your hard style. You've got that single arm swing, that explosiveness with your hips. You've got the super quick lightning strike, which changes the trajectory of the bell and it whips it around. You with the high pull, you punch it to the top. You're standing tall at the top. You quick wrist flip from the top to control it with the core, and you go right back to the groin. The last element is what to do with the hand, the opposite hand that's not in play. Think about this. If it is very similar to a vertical jump, am I going to get higher on that vertical jump with my arms working for me or not? I think working for me is the answer. So on a single arm swing, it seems pretty reasonable that I flow with that opposite arm right to the bell at the top of that swing. That seems pretty reasonable, right? It's all, from a kinesthetic standpoint, it's just flowing naturally. It's like water. It's just going to go to the path of least resistance. But when you snatch, where the heck does that hand go? Does it go out like the swing? Because that just, for me, doesn't feel comfortable or natural. So we are always teaching an evergreen approach. So we want to do what's natural and comfortable. So if you're ending in a high vertical point, you want your opposite arm to end there as well. Do you see how those lines are just very smooth and natural? And just cut that off at the elbow. That way you get the flow. Because it's not going to be natural if you do this. That doesn't flow too well. But it does flow well if you do this. So now you can watch the whole thing again and watch this opposite arm. First one's a swing, second one, high pull punch. The more aggressively that I use this hand, the easier this snatch is going to be for me. If I don't use it, that's harder. A lot harder. So we want to make sure you're getting all of that good flow with every aspect of the body. And I didn't even talk about the connection to the ground. All of you know we teach in socks or bare feet. Really important to be connected. So get out of your shoes, remove your shoes. It's one element that I didn't talk about. Make sure you've got ankle mobility and all that good stuff. Other than that, I really haven't talked much about program design, how to prepare for a snatch test. That's not really the purpose of this particular video. This video is just to get you snatching. I've done thousands of snatches in terms of repetitions and years of work, and I still work on it. I'm always practicing it, always making sure I'm stable, always making sure I'm getting, my breath. Always, always, always. And it's always a challenge. And I mean, I can break out a snatch test anytime I want because of the confidence that I have that I can do it and I stay in shape. But for you, it might be learning the snatch at a reasonable load and then gradually working up with your rep schemes and with your load. But that is the way that I would recommend that you start snatching, to put those elements together. There are other teaching tools, tips, and tricks that can be done. I'm not saying those are not good. I'm just using these tools, cues, tricks that tend to work with individuals that I work with. Those skills and those little tools, once the client picks those up and can incorporate those, they really start putting together a great kettlebell snatch. And it's an incredible skill. Like I said, it is the king of the kettlebell skill world. So by incorporating the snatch, you get an additional skill, and skills are simply going to provide a better result. That's why we want to emphasize skills. This is not a machine circuit. We're using and tapping into the body the way it's designed to move. And when you start getting into skills, you start enhancing your performance and you get higher level fitness, which is what we want to drive for. So if it's your first day here in an environment like this, Yeah, you're not going to learn skills. We're going to work on other things that you might need, like maybe you need correctives on your squat or your shoulder mobility or your core. But over the course of time, as we correct those things and as we get you moving better and feeling better, we're going to start moving you towards skills because we want you to get a better result. We don't want you spinning your wheels in a gym. We want you in a performance center doing performance training and living the performance lifestyle and feeling really good about it. So I hope this was enjoyable. I hope you got something out of it. And now you can drive yourself toward getting into a black strength band, because what you have to do is you have to prepare your body for 100 repetitions, either arm, it doesn't matter, in 5 minutes. That is a snatch test. And that is your challenge. So I'm Corey from Plaza Fitness Performance, and I'm reminding you to stay smart, stay sharp, and stay strong.